Alright, today we continue with tutorial 4 on Entity Framework and MVC. In the previous tutorial, we actually created our application without writing any code. But in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how MVC works. So we actually will start off this tutorial with an empty controller, and then gradually we'll write the code to perform the operations. So we are going to start with a brand new application. But now I'm going to go through very quickly so that we start writing the code to perform the actions. So I'm going to just remove this PowerPoint. So open Visual Studio. So we already have previously created an application, but now I'm going to create a new application. It's going to be really quick. So the focus of this is to write the controller code from the scratch. So just give it a name, controller lesson 4. All right, so MVC. So I want you to get used to the procedure so that you can easily start a new application and add the necessary components you need to add. So for now, we just start a new application. The next step is to add entity framework, and the next step is to add entity data model. So these are the 3 steps you will always follow. Remember to subscribe. Look down below this video. You see a subscribe button, so just click on subscribe. So this step, you know it. So we actually right click on our project so that we can add the entity framework. So you click on Manage NuGet Packages. You right click and click Manage NuGet Packages. You come to this place, click on Browse, and just enter Entity Framework. You've done it a number of times before, so always select 6.0.0 and say Install. Okay, so everything goes fine and it installs. Always look at the output window. It tells you what is happening. So this is the output window, everything finished. So I'm going to build this solution. The next thing we are going to do is to add entity data model. You already know this because I already mentioned it in the previous tutorial, tutorial 1 to 3. They are really easy to follow. So add a new item, and that will be data, and we are going to choose ADO.NET entity data model. We are going to call it people. And then go define a new connection. So select the database, select the server name, not the database. So the focus of this tutorial is to help you understand what is actually happening. Then select the database name. We are using tutorial DB, and then test connection. Hit connected and then say OK, and then go ahead to click on finish. So now I need to click on table and then select the table object. So just finish. So also always rebuild each time you add a component to your project. So allow some time, and then we will start writing the controller code. We'll start with an empty controller. So remember, this is MVC. MVC means model view controller. Model means your database data connection. Controller is the connection, or the middle there, or the middle the connection between the data and the web page that the user sees. So now we don't have any controller except the home controller. Home controller controls what happens initially when the program is run. So at this point it displays the home page. Now this is not what we are interested in for now. So just to explain a little as we are waiting, model means where the data comes from. Controller sits between the data and the view is the HTML page where all the user sees. So this is actually a view that we are seeing right now. So the first thing you are going to always do is to add a controller, because when we added the entity data model, we added a model. The next thing is to add a controller. So right click on the controller and then add controller. So this time we are going to add an empty controller, completely empty controller, and let's call it person controller. The reason we are calling it person controller is because person is the name of the entity or the name of the object. So inside people we have person. So if we open the people.edmx, you can see person.c#. So actually people is taken to be plural and person to be singular. So what it means now, we want to display a list of people or list of persons inside a page. So we are going to define that in the controller file. So let's look at the controller. This is a person controller we created. Right now you need to understand what is happening here. Here we have the controller namespace, controller lesson 4.controllers. That is the name of the namespace, this folder, controllers. Now we have this class representing this file, and now we have functions. The key thing you need to know is these functions inside this place. So these functions inside the controller specifies what happens when a user visits a URL. So if the program runs now, you see that it displays the home URL, and every other URL that comes will be slash. After the slash, you can now define what happens. So when you are creating a controller, you are basically defining what is going to happen when a user enters a URL following the base URL. Okay, so at this point, if the user goes to /person here, if you /person in the URL, then this code is going to execute, right? If a user goes to the /person URL, this code is going to be executed. It says return view. At this point, there is no view to return. So if you actually run this code, it will tell you there is no view to return, because if you go to /person URL, what is going to happen? It will look for the view corresponding to /person. So it looks into views person and looks for index. It doesn't say. So if it goes to /person, it looks into the folder called person. So this folder represents a view, and for now it doesn't exist. But now let's focus on writing the controller file. We want to return a list of items. So first we define the list of items we want to return. This list of items is in the model. Remember, the model contains the data. So we have to specify. So this is entities, tutorial DB entities, the name of the data model, and it contains all our objects or all our table mappings to classes. So in this case, we are going to create an object that we'll use throughout this controller to manage data or to access data. New. So at this point, we've created this. So this object contains all the data we need, because this represents our data model. So what we need now is to return a list of items. So we are going to give this view list of items to return. Meanwhile, the view does not exist, but let's just give it the list of items to return. db.people to list, right? So now we've given this view a list of items to return. So let's actually run it to see if it will return the list of items that we've specified. So at this point, let's just go to /person and it will also give the message there is no view existing. All right. So at this point, the controller already have a list of items to return, but there is no view to display. So what we are going to do is to right click inside the controller and just say add view. It's as simple as that. The view name is index. The template is a template that is going to display a list, right? The model class we say is the person, and the data context is the data context that we always use. The layout, we select the layout for this application. The layout is stored in view and is stored in shared and in layout. That's like a master page that all the pages will use. So scaffolding means it's generating the view for us. The key thing in MVC is to know how to write the controller file. This view, we are going to talk about it a little later, but the key thing is that we have created what is going to happen when a user visits the /person URL. Then this function action result index is going to run and is going to return a view containing a list of items. So at this point, I'm going to run it, and let's see what happens when we visit the /person URL. So at this point, I'm going to just go to /person URL and let's see what happens. At this point, I expect it to display a list of items. So what is happening is that this code is running. So to show it that it is actually running, so just put a breakpoint here and just run it again. And then if we visit the /person URL, is going to actually hit this breakpoint, as you can see. So if we look at db.people.list, you can see that if you continue the so it actually loads it and displays it in the view. So we've actually written the first part displaying a list of items. But if we go to edit, nothing happens. If we go to add new, nothing happens. So that is the next thing we are going to do. We are going to write in the next tutorial, tutorial 5, we are going to write what happens when a user visits /details/1. What happens at that point? So I'd like to thank you for viewing. Remember, subscribe. Click on subscribe button to subscribe so that you get updates when I make the next video. So the next video is going to be what happens when a user clicks details and visits this URL /details/1.